Have you ever felt that someone close to you isn't quite what they seem? As the philosopher Seneca once said, evil often hides under the guise of goodness, and he couldn't be more right. Don't worry, because in this video, you'll not only learn how to spot such people, but also discover exactly how to deal with each type. By the end of the video, I'll reveal a surprising yet very common sign that most of us often overlook, and explain how to turn it into your advantage. Let's build a community of kindness by subscribing to Stoicism for Success right now, and sharing it with you wish to see live with kindness and strength like us. Let's spread these positive values together. Let's get started. Have you ever wondered if you're surrounded by people with dark intentions? Imagine this. You're at the office, you trip and spill your coffee. While you struggle to clean up the mess, you notice your coworker smirking subtly. Sound familiar? Well, you've just witnessed a classic example of what psychologists call Schadenfreude. This German term literally means joy at others' misfortune, and is more common than you think. According to a study from Würzburg University, up to 30% of people admit experiencing this feeling at some point. But what happens when someone seems to constantly enjoy the suffering of others? This is where things get interesting, friends. Evil people don't just experience Schadenfreude occasionally, they actively seek it out. It's as if they have a radar for detecting others' misery and feeding off it. But don't worry, we're not suggesting you become paranoid. We just want you to stay alert. Notice how people around you react when someone is going through a tough time. Do they offer help or secretly gloat? The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer once said, "To feel envy is human, to enjoy others' misfortune is diabolical." And how right he was. Someone who constantly finds joy in others' pain is like an emotional vampire, draining the joy and positivity from those around them. But not all is lost. Recognizing this sign is the first step toward protecting yourself. If you identify someone like this in your life, it doesn't mean you should cut ties immediately. Sometimes a little compassion and honest dialogue can work wonders. After all, even Darth Vader had his redemption moment, right? So next time you see someone smirk when you trip, pay attention. It could be just an involuntary reaction, or it could be the tip of the iceberg of a darker personality. Remember, being informed is being armed, and in this case, your weapon is knowledge. Have you ever felt that someone is trying to control every aspect of your life, as if there's an invisible puppeteer pulling your strings? Well, friends, now we are going to dive into the fascinating world of obsessive control. And believe me, it's not as fun as it sounds. Imagine for a moment that you're a helpless little mouse in a maze, and someone out there is moving the walls at will. Frustrating, right? That's exactly what it feels like to be around a controlling person. It's as if they want to be the director of the movie of your life, but without asking for your permission. But why do these people feel such a pressing need to control everything? According to Dr. George Simon, an expert in manipulation and behavior, this stems from deep insecurity and fear of chaos. It's as if they think, if I don't control everything, the world will fall apart. Now, let's not confuse these people with your concerned grandmother who wants to know if you're wearing a coat. We're talking about a level of control that would make even a dictator say, "Hey, relax a little." These controlling individuals are like emotional vacuums, sucking up all your energy and freedom, leaving you feeling drained and exhausted. Does this sound familiar? If so, you're not alone. Many people find themselves trapped in these toxic dynamics without even realizing it. But not all is lost, friends. As the philosopher Epictetus said, we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how to respond to them. And how right Epictetus was. The key is to recognize the signs. Your boss obsessively checks every comma in your reports. Your partner wants to know where you are 24/7. Your friend gets upset if you don't follow their advice to the letter. Red alert? You're dealing with a potential compulsive controller. But don't worry, you don't have to move to a cave in the Himalayas to escape. There are ways to handle these situations without losing your sanity or your sense of humor. Setting clear boundaries is essential. It's like putting a no trespassing sign in your personal life. And if that doesn't work, you can always pretend your phone signal cuts out every time they call. Oops, the call dropped. Remember, my friend, your life is yours and no one else's. Don't let anyone turn you into their personal puppet. Be the director of your own movie and make it one that wins awards, not a low-budget drama. Have you ever felt that someone is trying to control every aspect of your life, as if there's an invisible puppeteer pulling your strings? Well, friends, now we are going to dive into the fascinating world of obsessive control. And believe me, it's not as fun as it sounds. Imagine for a moment that you're a helpless little mouse in a maze, and someone out there is moving the walls at will. Frustrating, right? That's exactly what it feels like to be around a controlling person. It's as if they want to be the director of the movie of your life, but without asking for your permission. But why do these people feel such a pressing need to control everything? According to Dr. George Simon, an expert in manipulation and behavior, this stems from deep insecurity and fear of chaos. It's as if they think, if I don't control everything, the world will fall apart. Now, let's not confuse these people with your concerned grandmother who wants to know if you're wearing a coat. We're talking about a level of control that would make even a dictator say, hey, relax a little. These controlling individuals are like emotional vacuums, sucking up all your energy and freedom, leaving you feeling drained and exhausted. Does this sound familiar? If so, you're not alone. Many people find themselves trapped in these toxic dynamics without even realizing it. But not all is lost, friends. As the philosopher Epictetus said, we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how to respond to them. And how right Epictetus was. The key is to recognize the signs. Your boss obsessively checks every comma in your reports. Your partner wants to know where you are 24/7. Your friend gets upset if you don't follow their advice to the letter. Red alert, you're dealing with a potential compulsive controller. But don't worry, you don't have to move to a cave in the Himalayas to escape. There are ways to handle these situations without losing your sanity or your sense of humor. Setting clear boundaries is essential. It's like putting a no trespassing sign in your personal life. And if that doesn't work, you can always pretend your phone signal cuts out every time they call. Oops, the call dropped. Remember, my friend, your life is yours and no one else's. Don't let anyone turn you into their personal puppet. Be the director of your own movie and make it one that wins awards, not a low-budget drama. Let's come together to support our community. If you are a kind person, please hit the like button on this video and leave some energetic comments to spread positive vibes. Together, we can make a difference. Have you ever met someone who always seems to have an excuse for everything? Imagine this. You're in a work meeting and your coworker arrives late again. The traffic was horrible, they exclaim. But isn't it curious how traffic only seems to affect certain people? For some, avoiding responsibility is like an Olympic sport. And let me tell you, they're gold medalists in the evasion games. But seriously, a lack of responsibility is a clear sign that you're dealing with someone potentially toxic. These people have a PhD in blaming others and a master's degree in playing the victim. They're like magicians, but instead of pulling rabbits out of hats, they pull excuses out of nowhere. Psychologist Dr. John Grohol explains that this tendency to dodge responsibility often comes from a deep fear of failure or criticism. It's as if these people have an invisible shield that deflects any blame that comes their way. So how can we deal with these masters of evasion? First, stay calm. Remember, their lack of responsibility says more about them than it does about you. Second, be firm. When someone unfairly blames you, don't be afraid to set clear boundaries. Imagine you're in a play and your scene partner forgets their lines. Instead of improvising or admitting their mistake, they blame you in front of the whole audience. What do? Simple. Don't play their game. Keep your composure and carry on with the performance. It's important to remember that you can't change these people, but you can change how you react to them. As the philosopher Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you respond to it that matters. Imagine you're at a gathering with friends, and someone tells a story so incredible it sounds like something straight out of a movie. Everyone listens with their jaws dropped, but you have this nagging feeling in your gut that something doesn't add up. Sound familiar? Well, you might be dealing with a compulsive liar. Psychologist Dr. Robert Feldman from the University of Massachusetts found that people lie more often than we'd like to believe. But why do they do it? It's not that they have long noses like Pinocchio, but they do share something in common with him. They lie to gain advantages, whether it's to impress, manipulate, or simply for the thrill of deceiving. These masters of deception have no limits. Now, don't fall into the trap of thinking all lies are the same. There's a big difference between telling your partner you love their new haircut, even if it looks like a blind gardener did it, and weaving an elaborate web of lies that would make even the most skeptical person doubt reality. And you know what's most dangerous? These lies don't just distort the truth. They can have real consequences in our lives. Imagine trusting someone who constantly lies about their financial situation, or worse, their feelings toward you. But all is not lost, friends. There are ways to spot these deception artists. Pay attention to inconsistencies in their stories, observe their body language, and listen for overly detailed explanations. If someone gives you the exact color of the socks they were wearing when something supposedly happened, they might be making up the story on the spot. As the great Mark Twain once said, "If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything." So next time you encounter someone who seems to live in a fantasy world built on lies, trust your instincts and protect yourself. Some people wear their resistance to change like a badge of honor. "This is just how I am, take it or leave it," they proudly declare. But is that really something to be proud of? The Greek philosopher Heraclitus said over 2,500 years ago, "The only constant is change," and how right he was. These people are like broken records, repeating the same mistakes over and over again. If you point out a problematic behavior, they hide behind excuses like, "That's just how I've always been." It's like they're stuck in a loop, unwilling or unable to evolve. That's why it's crucial to surround yourself with people who inspire you to be a better version of yourself. Seek out those who challenge you and push you out of your comfort zone. As entrepreneur Jim Rohn once said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." Imagine your friend Sophia. She's always willing to help, lend money, and listen to others' problems. A real angel. They use tactics like emotional blackmail, empty promises, and guilt trips. "If you were really my friend, you'd lend me money. I swear this is the last time I'll ask for a favor. I can't believe you're abandoning me when I need you the most." Sound familiar? If so, be careful. You could be dealing with a kindness exploiter. But all is not lost. The philosopher Immanuel Kant reminds us that kindness is the only investment that never fails. However, being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. As the author Ayn Rand once said, "Don't say you have to help someone, do it because you want to." True kindness comes from the heart, not from obligation. So, dear friends, the next time someone tries to take advantage of your good nature, remember, your kindness is a gift, not a duty. Imagine being in a relationship that seems perfect, but your friends and family keep frowning every time you mention your partner. Sound familiar? Well, you're not alone. It turns out that our close circle can often detect red flags that we overlook. Psychologist Dr. John Gottman, known as the relationship guru, reminds us that sometimes we are so blinded by love, or what we think is love, that we ignore obvious warning signs. Take off those rose-colored glasses and take a closer look. A classic example is Maria and Carlos. Maria was madly in love with Carlos, but her friends kept warning her about his controlling behavior. "He's just protective," she would say. But when Carlos started isolating her from her friends and criticizing every decision she made, Maria finally realized that her friends had been right all along. The philosopher Aristotle once said, "A friend is a soul dwelling in 2 bodies." So when your best friend says, "Hey, don't you think something seems off about that person?" Instead of getting defensive, take a moment to reflect. They might be doing you a huge favor without you even realizing it. And remember, at the end of the day, you are the protagonist of your own story, but it never hurts to have a trustworthy team of advisors by your side. Our community offers beautiful values for free. If you appreciate the hard work of our dedicated team, please support their silent sacrifice. You can contribute via PayPal to help us continue bringing positive values and maintaining the activities of our community. Every bit of support from you makes a significant difference. Have you ever noticed someone who seems to enjoy putting others down just to feel superior? According to Dr. John Gottman, contempt is the #1 predictor of divorce, not just in romantic relationships, but in any kind of relationship. Contempt is how toxic people elevate themselves at the expense of others' well-being. But let's not confuse contempt with constructive criticism. The difference lies in the intention. Constructive criticism aims to help you improve, while contempt aims to belittle you. So the next time someone criticizes your dreams, your appearance, or your achievements in a way that makes you feel small, stand tall and remember that their words say more about them than about you. As the great philosopher Marcus Aurelius said, "What others think of you is none of your concern." Don't let others' disparaging opinions define who you are or what you can achieve. The philosopher Immanuel Kant wisely said, "We can judge the heart of a person by how they treat animals." And how right he was. But beware, cruelty isn't always extreme. Sometimes it disguises itself as neglect or indifference. Think of that neighbor who leaves their dog on the balcony all day under the scorching sun, or the friend who forgets to feed their cat. These actions, though less dramatic, are just as telling. As Russian writer Fyodor Dostoevsky said, "The true moral test of humanity is its relationship with those who are at its mercy." So, the next time you meet someone new, pay attention to how they treat animals. It might reveal far more about their character than you could ever imagine. Have you ever met someone who seems incapable of feeling guilt? Watch for these signs. They never apologize sincerely. If they do, their apologies sound as fake as a $3 bill. They always blame others for their mistakes. They minimize the harm they cause. "It wasn't that bad. It was just a joke." They get defensive when asked to take responsibility. "Why do you always make me feel guilty?" They change the subject whenever their faults are brought up. As philosopher Immanuel Kant said, "Moral conscience is what distinguishes humanity." There's a big difference between learning from mistakes and refusing to acknowledge them at all. So what should you do if you encounter someone like this in your life? First, don't try to fix them. You're not an emotional repair shop. Instead, set clear boundaries and maintain a healthy distance. Remember, your emotional well-being is like a garden. Don't let someone without remorse stomp through it like an elephant in a china shop. Envy is one of humanity's oldest emotions and one of the most destructive. Aristotle described envy as pain at the sight of another's good fortune. Have you ever met someone who always downplays your achievements or forgets to mention your contributions at work? These people aren't just envious, they're resentful. But not all envy is harmful. In fact, healthy envy can motivate us to improve ourselves. As the philosopher Jim Rohn said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." So choose wisely, surround yourself with ambitious, positive people, and watch your own success soar. But beware of those whose envy crosses the line into sabotage. Look for these signs: constant criticism of your successes, taking pleasure in others' failures, and inability to celebrate others' achievements. If you recognize these patterns, it might be time to reconsider those relationships. Remember, envy can be your worst enemy or your best teacher. You decide. We hope this guide helps you identify toxic behaviors and protect your emotional well-being. Remember, knowledge is power, and being aware of these warning signs can help you build healthier relationships and a more fulfilling life. If you enjoyed this content, consider joining our channel by clicking the link in the pinned comment. Until next time, stay wise, stay strong, and keep learning.